All right, let's get started with today's deep dive.
Sounds good.
We're looking at this Reddit post that just blew up online, and it really got people talking.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating one.
It is. It's from this guy, he's in his mid-40s,
Mm.
and, on the surface, he seems to have it all. Like, he's financially stable, good education, he's traveled, he's got a happy family,
Mm.
like, everything you'd think would make for a satisfying life. But he's just, well, he's miserable.
Yeah, he's struggling with some pretty intense stuff. Like he talks about loneliness, he mentions overthinking, and he even says he feels emotionally volatile. Like his feelings are just all over the place.
Right. And what really hit a nerve with people was this question he posed. He asked if anyone else just feels like they're going through the motions, just wishing the years away.
I think that's a feeling a lot of people can relate to, even if they don't talk about it openly.
Hmm.
Especially when you get to a certain age, you hit your 40s, maybe 50s, and you start to question things like, is this it? Is this all there is?
And it's interesting because he's not, like, failing at life. You know what I mean? He's got all those markers of success, but it's almost like those things aren't enough.
And I think that's what really struck a chord with so many people, because we're often told that if we just achieve X, Y, and Z, we'll be happy. But the reality is, it's often much more complex than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of the responses he got because people really went in on this, offering advice, sharing their own stories. It was really something.
It was. I mean, the comment section was like a masterclass in life advice.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest themes that kept popping up was the importance of social connection.
Okay, so talk to me about that because on the surface, you wouldn't necessarily think midlife crisis equals need more friends.
Right, right. But it makes sense when you think about it. Men especially are often raised to prioritize work and family above all else. Those are important, of course, but neglecting your own social needs can have serious consequences.
Like you can end up feeling isolated, lonely, even purposeless.
Exactly. And it's not just about having people to hang out with. It's about having a support system, people who get you, who you can confide in.
So what were some of the specific suggestions people were offering?
Oh, there were so many great ideas.
Yeah.
Some people recommended coaching kids' sports teams. Others suggested joining a band or even checking out organizations like the Elps Lodge or Rotary Club.
Interesting. So it's like find a group, a community, a place where you can connect with others who share your interests.
Yeah, exactly. It's about finding that sense of belonging outside of work and family.
Makes sense.
Mm.
But does it have to be that, I don't know, structured?
Not at all. I mean, those are great options, but it can be much more casual than that. One guy talked about joining a laser tag league and how those post-game pizza hangouts turned into some of his closest friendships.
I love that. It's not about forcing it. It's about creating opportunities for connection to happen organically.
Precisely. And you know what? That actually leads us to another big theme that came up, which is the importance of hobbies and personal growth.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of people lose sight of that as they get older. It's all work, family, responsibilities.
Right. But hobbies are so important. They give you something to look forward to, something that's just for you.
And it doesn't even have to be something you're good at. It's about the process, the enjoyment, the learning.
You know what they say, right? A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. It's okay to try different things, to be a beginner, to just have fun with it.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They think they have to be experts at something to enjoy it. But that's not true at all.
Absolutely not. And think about it. When you're engaged in something you enjoy, you're less likely to dwell on the negative stuff, right? It's like a mental break, a chance to recharge.
So true. So what were some of the hobbies people were recommending?
Oh, everything under the sun.
Yes.
Woodworking, playing guitar, cooking, gardening, writing. It was really all over the map.
It's like, what did you love to do as a kid? What did you give up on because adulting got in the way? Maybe it's time to revisit those passions.
You know what's fascinating? A lot of those hobbies naturally lend themselves to social connection.
That's true. Like you take a woodworking class, you're bound to meet other people who are into it.
Right. Or you join a cooking club, you're going to be swapping recipes and stories over delicious food. It's like a win-win.
It really is.
Yeah.
You get the personal fulfillment, A&D, the social connection.
Hmm.
And speaking of fulfillment, another key theme that kept popping up was the idea of reframing success and purpose.
Ah, yes. This is where things get really interesting because a lot of people, especially men, are raised with this very narrow definition of success.
Right. It's all about the job title, the big house, the fancy car.
Exactly. But what if those things don't actually bring happiness?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What if we're chasing the wrong things?
Right. There's this one commenter who shared that classic anecdote about the businessman and the fisherman.
Oh, I love that story.
You know it.
Yeah. Yeah, the businessman's working himself to the bone, trying to make a fortune, and he sees this fisherman just chilling on the beach, fishing for his dinner.
And the businessman's like, if you worked harder, you could be rich, you could retire early, and then you could spend all your time fishing.
Yeah, the fisherman's just like, but isn't that what I'm doing already?
Exactly. It's such a simple story, but it really makes you think about what we value, what we prioritize.
And it highlights how easy it is to get caught up in this, this rat race and forget to actually enjoy life in the present moment.
You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that's so true. We're constantly bombarded with images of success on social media, on TV, everywhere we look. And it's easy to start feeling like we're not measuring up.
It's like we're all on this treadmill trying to keep up with the Joneses, but no one's really stopping to ask, wait, where are we even running to?
Right. And I think hitting middle age is when that question starts to become more urgent. You've achieved some of those milestones, but you still feel this emptiness.
So what's the answer? How do we redefine success on our own terms?
It's not easy, that's for sure. But I think it starts with introspection, with asking yourself some tough questions like, what truly matters to me? What brings me joy? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind?
It's about getting really honest with yourself about what you want out of life, not what society tells you should want.
Exactly. And it might mean letting go of some of those external markers of success, those things that we're told we should be striving for, and instead focusing on what brings you genuine fulfillment.
And it's okay if that looks different for everyone, right? There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
No, absolutely. What matters is that it's authentic to you.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about social connection, hobbies, reframing success. What else did people recommend?
Well, there is another really important piece of advice that kept coming up, and that's the importance of seeking help when you need it.
That's huge, especially for men. There's still so much stigma around mental health.
It's true. And it's so unfortunate because bottling things up only makes them worse.
Exactly. Like it takes more strength to acknowledge you're struggling and reach out for support than to pretend everything's fine.
100%. And there are so many resources available these days. Therapy, support groups, online communities. You don't have to go through this alone.
A lot of people were specifically recommending therapy, like as a way to address depression, anxiety, or any other underlying issues that might be contributing to this feeling of emptiness.
And therapy can be incredibly helpful. It provides a safe space to explore your thoughts and feelings without judgment. And a therapist can help you develop coping mechanisms and strategies for managing those difficult emotions.
So it's not just about talking about your problems, it's about equipping yourself with the tools to handle them.
Right. And it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to seek help when you need it.
This is all so incredibly insightful. It's amazing how one man's honest post sparks such a profound conversation about what it means to live a truly fulfilling life.
It really is. And I think it speaks to how many people are out there quietly struggling with these same questions. And it's a reminder that we're not alone in this journey.
And it's okay to admit that you're not okay.
Yeah, exactly. And to reach out for help when you need it.
So I'm curious, what else did people have to say? Because I know there were a ton of responses to this post. What other gems of wisdom did they offer?
You know what? You're right. There's a lot more ground to cover. So why don't we take a quick break? And when we come back, we'll dive into some of the other themes that emerged from this fascinating Reddit thread.
Okay, sounds good to me. We'll be right back.
See you soon. Okay, so we're back, and we're still diving deep into this Reddit post that's got everyone talking about, well, life, really.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how one guy's vulnerability sparked this whole conversation about meaning and purpose.
Right. Like, it really struck a nerve with people. And one of the things that stood out to me was how many commenters talked about the importance of getting involved in something bigger than yourself.
That's interesting. What do you mean by that?
Like finding something that gives you a sense of purpose outside of your own little world, something that contributes to the greater good.
Okay, I see. So not just focusing on your own problems and worries, but looking outward, finding ways to make a difference.
Exactly. And a lot of people were specifically talking about volunteering, like finding a cause you're passionate about and dedicating some of your time and energy to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of research out there about the benefits of volunteering. Like it can boost your mood, reduce stress, even improve your physical health.
Right. And it's not just about the feel-good chemicals. It's about feeling connected to something larger than yourself, feeling like you're making a real difference in the world.
Like you're not just going through the motions anymore. You're actively contributing, making a positive impact.
Yeah. And you know what? It doesn't have to be this huge, grand gesture. It could be something as simple as helping out at a local soup kitchen or mentoring a young person. Every little bit helps.
And I think that's what's so cool about this whole conversation. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being open to different perspectives, different approaches.
Totally. And another theme that kept coming up was this idea of reclaiming your inner child.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What do people mean by that?
Like remembering what brought you joy when you were younger. What were you passionate about? What did you dream of doing?
I feel like a lot of people lose sight of that as they get older. It's like all the responsibilities and obligations of adulthood just kind of bury those childhood passions.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind,
Yeah.
but it's so important to make time for those things that light you up, that make you feel alive.
So what were some of the examples people shared?
Oh, there were so many. One guy had talked about how he dusted off his old guitar and started taking lessons again. Another guy decided to finally pursue that dream of learning to paint. And it wasn't about becoming a professional musician or artist. It was about the joy of creating, of expressing themselves.
That's so cool. It's like giving yourself permission to play, to explore, to be creative without judgment.
And you know what happens when you do that? You start to tap into this whole other side of yourself, this side that maybe you've neglected for years.
Like you're rediscovering who you are, what you're capable of.
And that can be incredibly empowering because it reminds you that you're not just a cog in the machine, you're a unique individual with your own gifts and talents.
It's like you're reclaiming your own narrative.
Exactly. And that leads me to another piece of advice that came up a lot, which was the idea of trying something completely new and outside of your comfort zone.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Hmm.
Tell me more about that.
Like challenging yourself to do something that scares you a little, something you've always wanted to try but never had the courage to.
So not just revisiting old passions, but stepping into the unknown, pushing
Yeah.
those boundaries.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be anything drastic. It could be as simple as taking a different route to work or trying a new type of food. The point is to shake things up, to break out of your routine.
Because routine can be a killer, right? It can lead to boredom, stagnation, even a sense of hopelessness.
Totally. And you know what's funny? A lot of people actually suggested that the original poster might be experiencing boredom. Like at first glance, you wouldn't think that's the issue. He's got all this success, all these things going for him. But maybe that's part of the problem.
Like he's achieved a certain level of comfort and stability, but now there's a lack of challenge, a lack of novelty.
And boredom can be sneaky. It
Yeah.
can manifest in all sorts of ways. Restlessness, irritability, even depression.
So the antidote is to actively seek out new experiences, new challenges, new things to learn.
Precisely. It's about keeping your mind and spirit engaged, not letting yourself get stuck in a rut.
And it doesn't have to be about these big, dramatic changes. Sometimes it's the small things that make the biggest difference.
Right. Like instead of watching TV after dinner, go for a walk. Instead of scrolling through social media, pick up a book. It's about making intentional choices that bring more joy and variety into your life.
And that's where the concept of intentional living comes in, which, by the way, was another big theme that emerged from this Reddit thread.
It was. People were really emphasizing the importance of being mindful about how you spend your time and energy, making sure your actions are aligned with your values.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does intentional living actually look like in practice?
Well, it's different for everyone, of course. But I think it starts with identifying what's truly important to you. Like, what are your priorities? What are your goals? What kind of life do you want to create?
And then it's about making choices that support those goals,
Wow.
right? Even if it means saying no to things that don't align with your values.
Exactly. It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and making sure you're not just reacting to life, but actively shaping it.
This is all so incredibly insightful. It's like we're getting a crash course in how to live a more fulfilling life.
And you know what? It's not just about theory. People were sharing all sorts of practical tips and strategies for putting these ideas into action.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, one thing that came up a lot was the importance of creating a morning routine. Like starting your day with something that sets you up for success, whether it's meditation, exercise, journaling, or just taking a few minutes to enjoy a cup of coffee in peace.
That makes sense. I mean, I know how I start my day definitely impacts my mood for the rest of the day.
Totally. And another tip was to schedule time for the things that matter most, like actually putting it on your calendar, whether it's date night with your partner, family time, or time for your hobbies. It's about making those things a priority, not just squeezing them in when you have a spare moment.
Yeah, because if you don't make time for them, they'll never happen, right?
Mm.
It's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of daily life and forget about the things that bring us joy.
And that's why self-reflection is so important. Taking the time to regularly check in with yourself, to ask yourself how you're feeling, what's working, what's not, and then making adjustments as needed.
It's like giving yourself permission to course correct to make sure you're still on track.
And it's an ongoing process, right? Life is constantly changing, so we need to be adaptable, flexible, and most importantly, kind to ourselves.
Oh, that's a good one. Because I think a lot of us are way too hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
We set these unrealistic expectations, and then we beat ourselves up when we don't meet them.
It's true, and that's where self-compassion comes in, which, by the way, was another big theme that emerged from this Reddit thread.
Okay, so let's talk about that because I think self-compassion is something a lot of us struggle with. What is it exactly, and how do we cultivate it?
It's basically about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend. Like, imagine your best friend is going through a tough time.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? How would you support them?
You'd be patient, understanding, encouraging. You wouldn't judge them or criticize them.
Exactly. But we often don't extend that same grace to ourselves.
It's like we have this inner critic that's constantly putting us down, telling us we're not good enough.
Right. And that inner critic can be so loud and so harsh. But we can choose to challenge those negative thoughts, to replace them with more compassionate ones.
So instead of beating yourself up for feeling lost or unfulfilled, you acknowledge those feelings and give yourself permission to work through them.
Yeah. And you remind yourself that you're not alone, that everyone struggles at times, and that it's okay to ask for help.
This is all so incredibly valuable. It's like we're getting a master class in how to be kinder to ourselves, how to live a more authentic and fulfilling life.
And you know what? It all started with one guy's willingness to be vulnerable, to share his struggles with the world. And that vulnerability created this ripple effect, this wave of support and encouragement.
It's a reminder that even though we may feel alone in our struggles, there's a whole community out there who understands and wants to help.
And that's the beauty of this whole deep dive. It's not just about one person's journey. It's about the collective wisdom of the crowd. It's about sharing our experiences, our insights, and our hopes for a better future.
You know, it's really inspiring to see how many people were willing to share their own experiences and offer advice to this guy who was feeling lost.
Mm,
It shows that even though we may feel alone in our struggles, there's a whole community out there who understands and wants to help.
right. And what really stood out to me was the emphasis on taking action. It wasn't just about offering platitudes or empty words of encouragement. People were sharing specific strategies and resources that had helped them overcome similar challenges.
Yeah, like it's one thing to say, oh, you'll get through this, but it's another thing entirely to say, hey, here's what worked for me. Maybe it'll help you too. Like offering tangible solutions.
And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. It's not just about understanding the problem, it's about empowering people to take those steps towards creating a life that feels more fulfilling.
So as we wrap up, what are some of the key takeaways you'd want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest one is that you have the power to shape your own experience. You don't have to be a passive bystander in your own life. You can make choices that align with your values, that bring you joy, that contribute to something larger than yourself.
Like recognizing that you're not a victim of circumstance, you have agency, you have the ability to create change.
Exactly. And it's never too late to start. Whether you're in your 20s, your 40s, your 60s, it doesn't matter. You can always choose to make a shift, to create a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling.
And it's okay to ask for help, right? Like you don't have to go through this alone.
Absolutely. Reach out to friends, family, therapists, support groups. There's a whole network of people out there who want to see you succeed.
I think that's so important to remember because it's easy to get caught up in our own heads, you know? Like we isolate ourselves, we think we're the only ones struggling.
But the reality is we're all in this together. Everyone faces challenges. Everyone has moments of doubt and uncertainty. It's part of the human experience.
And it's through sharing those experiences, through connecting with others, that we find strength, we find hope, we find our way back to ourselves.
This whole deep dive started with one man's cry for help, and it turned into this incredible outpouring of support and wisdom. It's a reminder that we're all connected, that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
And sometimes, all it takes is one person to speak up, to be vulnerable, to ignite a conversation that can change lives.
You know, it's been an honor to explore this topic with you today. It's given me so much to think about, and I hope it's done the same for our listeners.
You too. And to everyone listening out there, thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Remember, you are not alone. You are capable of creating a life you love. And if you ever need a reminder of that, come back and listen to this episode again.
Or reach out to someone, anyone. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to listen, to offer support, to help you find your way.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the human experience. We're exploring all sorts of fascinating topics, from relationships and mental health to creativity and spirituality. So hit that subscribe button and join the conversation.
And be sure to check out our website and social media for even more content. We're always sharing new insights and resources to help you live a more fulfilling life.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep diving deep.
See you soon.